Hello and welcome to another episode of the Daily Fantasy Studs, or DFS for short. I am Ryan, joined with Parker. Parker, how's it going? It's been a little bit.
Yeah, it has been a bit, man. I'm doing good. It was a long week last week with the Thanksgiving games and everything going on the weekend. We got five sports going on. It seems like right now, but doing good. Back home, ready to go. We got a hell of a Thursday night game tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope this goes better for me than last Thursday. I don't know if you cashed well on the Thursday slate, but that last Jacoby Myers catch took me out of the money for my min cash that I so desperately wanted. it was a bad day for me, but that happens sometimes. If you have the optimal lineup, you got to make it count. We've said that countless times that you have to be different somehow, and lo and behold, there's a lot of ways to get different on this slate. We have the Bills at the Patriots. A good Thursday night game for a change, Parker, at least so we think.
Yeah, it should be one of the better Thursday night games of the entire year. I mean, hell, we watched both teams play last Thursday. Both games were good, so I'm ready for a solid game. The spread makes it seem as if it's going to be a good game, so
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready and hyped to go as well, but let's dive right into the slate because we have, of course, Josh Allen at the top, fantasy superstar, although he kind of hasn't been lately after that whole arm injury with the UCL. Are you having him as your highest exposed captain, or are you going to err on the side of caution, maybe even fade him?
I will not fade him. I think just the upside is just there. You know, last week it really didn't seem like he did much in that Lions game. The guy scored 30 points. He was like the second highest scoring quarterback of the entire week. So
Yeah.
the way that he can get it done and constantly gets it done, I don't think there's a way to fade him. The captain spot obviously is just an easy plug and play, right? But he is, I think, 18,000 at captain and probably will
18.3.
be about 30% owned. So I think there are better ways to maybe get off of him and get different, but there's just no way I can fade Josh Allen.
Oh, it's hard. I know with the right elbow injury, everyone's concerned. And obviously his output, it feels like it's been a little overstated looking at it on my screen here. He had the 12-point game against Cleveland, but the other three games, he's been above 25, including the Jets game where he got hurt. So he's been looking pretty good. And obviously, it's going to be hard to get different. And especially if you fade him and you miss, you're done. Your lineup's done. You have no chance. Even if you hit on, say, Nelson Aguilar scoring again like he did last week, or a Devontae Parker who also had a big game. If you even hit on those minor guys and you miss out on Josh Allen, it's over for you. So I'm I'm all in on Josh Allen at his high price salary. Maybe not in the captain spot. Are you gonna look to be around 30% in the captain spot? Are you gonna
Yeah, I think if not lower, I think there's some better options down here that are going to be just extremely low owned because of him, and I think 30% might be on the lower side. If you're in a tournament with 200 people, he might be 50% owned at captain and 90% owned in general. So, um, I think there are better ways to go about it to get different, and I'll probably have 15-20%.
Yeah, it seems like a good amount because there's a lot of players here that have sneaky upside. Obviously, there's Stephon Diggs, which we'll get to, but Isaiah McKenzie could be a saver, but he also could be highly overowned because of the week he just put in. And there's a lot here. There's a lot we have to go through, but we're going to work from top to bottom. I don't think I said that. My apologies. So we're just going to work our way down. Doesn't matter what team they're on. So next up, we have to talk about the guy, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen's number one man, who he did have a good game, but he started so slow. I remember, did he have one catch at the half during the Thanksgiving game?
Yeah, he was struggling.
It was a touchdown.
I think he had like 15 fantasy points in the fourth quarter alone. I mean, he came on strong at the end.
He saved his week, and he saved a lot of fantasy managers out there, but it was right after a Lions injury. I forget which DB got hurt off the top of my head, but one of them got hurt and he started carving up that Lions secondary. So I don't think the Patriots, they could put Jack Jones on them, but it's going to be hard to fade Stephon Diggs. Are you looking to stack him and Josh Allen? You looking to play one and leave Stephon Diggs out, maybe pivot to a Gabe Davis or Isaiah McKenzie?
Yeah, so this week's tough. I like to call it the big three. There's Josh Allen, there's Stephon Diggs, and there's Stevenson. It's almost impossible to get all three of them, and you're gonna need two. And so it's funny in a way. I think I'll probably split Diggs and Stevenson. I think I like Stevenson more than Diggs because, like you said, there is ways to get different with Diggs that will be lower owned, like a Gabe Davis, like a McKenzie, maybe even the tight end Knox. And so I think he'll be my lowest owned of the big three, I like to call this week, but he will be everyone's lowest owned of the big three, therefore making him probably one of the better plays, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking around. I have DraftKings up on my screen right now. I'm trying to fit all three of them in. It is so hard to do it. Like you
Oh
have to
yeah,
punt
dude. I
down.
mean, if you go Allen at captain and then the other two, what do you have left? About $3,000 a player.
Yep, 3.2K a player, which leaves you around. You want to take a punt on Jonnu Smith at 1 for Tyquan Thornton, maybe at 400 could be kind of appealing if you want to, monster stack, and then you have 4.6 per player, which puts you actually in Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar range with the kickers.
Yeah,
So
and
maybe,
that monster stack can be a thing with if Jacoby Myers is rolled out. If Jacoby Myers is rolled out, I do not mind the monster stack at all. But it's looking like he's going to play. He's practiced the last three days, and so I think he's playing. Therefore, it is just that monster stack. It's fun, but
yeah,
if everyone's doing it, all these guys in the mid range are going to be so low owned, you know.
yeah. And Tyquan Thornton had 20 snaps on Thanksgiving, and he didn't get a target. So like, the risk is there, but if those guys have big games and Gabe Davis kind of sits it out, same with Singletary, you could have a monster spot here, but we're going to keep working our way down. Obviously, you brought him up, Ramondre Stevenson, the guy who has garnered a massive target share out of the backfield these past couple of weeks with Damian Harris out, who, might I also add, is out for this Thursday night as well. So, like you said, perfect part of the big three. He's going to get a huge target share in DraftKings with those PPR points. He's so valuable that I think you have to have him in there. And it's like you said, you might have to leave Stephon Diggs out.
Yeah, I mean, if the Patriots are going to be playing catch up, which the spread kind of indicates as them being 3.5, 4 point dogs, I don't know how you don't play Ramondre Stevenson at this price. The guy, what's he getting right now? Like 8 catches a game? I mean,
He had
if you've
10
got
targets last
yeah,
week.
yeah, 10 targets. If you've got 8 catches for 0 yards, you're getting 8 points. I mean, I don't see a world where he doesn't touch the ball at least 20 times tomorrow night. And so therefore I think I have to leave out Diggs of the big three because I can't not play Ramondre.
Mm-hmm. It's so tough. I mean, when you're getting 10 targets, 6 targets, 7 in 2 games before that, 8 in the game before that, like the workload is just, you can't turn it down. And volume is king in these fantasy sports. And you're going to get a ton of it with Ramondre Stevenson. His volume on the low side with 16 touches against the Vikings, he still registered 20.2 fantasy points.
Yeah, and with no Harris, I mean, I think Stevenson and Allen, they might garner up 60% of the captain ownership, those two, which is terrifying. And so there's ways to play them, but not be part of that 60%. You know, like playing both at the flex and trying someone different at captain, I think is probably my favorite way to go about tomorrow. But I think Stevenson and Allen will be in a massive amount of my lineups.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm going to be heavy on Aguilar too to fit them both in. But he might be overexposed as well because he's coming off a touchdown and a good game. Well, a lot of these value options are coming off of good games, honestly. You might have to get sneaky down here, but like I said, we're working top to bottom. Next up, we got Mac Jones. I have to ask just straight up. I know we just got done with the covering the hypothetical big three, but do you have any interest with Mac Jones against this touted Buffalo defense without Von Miller.
It really is hard to afford him at 9,400, which means he'll probably come in the lowest owned, above $8,000. But man, it's just tough. I mean, last week, what did he throw for 360 yards? Like, I mean, he went off last week.
Yeah.
And he still didn't score that many points, And so just the ceiling is not there. I mean, he needs 360 yards and a couple touchdowns to get to what I have Stevenson and Allen projected. Like, I don't think I will have much of him. I think he's a great GPP play. You can stack him with some people. And if this game gets out of hand and they're playing catch up for 3 quarters, I think it's a good way to go about it. But in single entries and GPPs with less than, I don't know, 1,500 people in it, I don't think I'm going to have too much Mac Jones. How do you feel about him?
I mean, it's really hard, but like we've said before, it makes him a good play that he's not a good play.
Yeah.
It's weird how this DFS stuff works. Like, he went off, but he has no rushing upside. He had 0 rushing attempts. He has 27 on the season for 81 yards. That's what makes these guys like Allen, Lamar, and Hurts so valuable in showdown, because they give you so much with their legs that they just break the slate. Like Jalen Hurts on this past Sunday night, I don't even know if he scored the most fancy points, but he certainly broke the slate, because I know Miles Sanders scored twice, but he added so much with his legs, and Mac Jones just can't do that. So
yeah, he doesn't run, man. And if you're going to play Mac Jones, you can't play Stevenson. And so therefore you're getting extremely different in that way. And so, like I said, I don't hate it, but if you got to pick one of those two, it is so hard not to click on Stevenson and just assume he's going to get 8 catches again.
I know. If he doesn't attempt to rush and he has 8 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown, he's
there.
And that doesn't even account for what he's probably going to get on the ground, which is probably, I'd say, 12 to 15 carries, maybe 20 if the game script somehow goes his way.
Yeah. And Ryan, as low as this total is, that again scares me from Mac Jones. It's down to 43. Like, but the Patriots just were in a shootout a week ago. I have no idea why the total is as low as it is, but that makes me just assume that Mac Jones will not score more than 20 fantasy points, So yeah. He scares me.
I think it's because no one expected that last week. It was a dome. The conditions are always perfect in the dome.
True.
And now you're in Foxborough in December, the first day of December. Like, yeah, it doesn't look fantasy appealing. I remember Josh Allen running all over them last year in Foxborough. So,
and it seems like the path to victory against the Bills is to run the ball constantly, short passes, absolutely chew the clock up. You saw the Lions try to do it for at least 3 quarters last week. And so if that's the path to victory they're going to take, and they're just going to try to run it as much as they can and do these dink and dunk passes, I just don't see a way that Mac Jones makes the optimal lineup.
No, it's really hard. And you said that's the right way to beat the Bills, and you're right. And I don't know how much we would have been touting Damian Harris at $5K against the Bills, but it might have been a lot.
Yeah.
At that price tag, it just feels like a value. We know Ramondre's the guy now, but Damian Harris got a lot of work in that 1 week back. What was it? It wasn't 5 carries. That was last game. It was 8 for 65, and he looked good. So,
yeah, it's tough. And I mean, now Stevenson with no Harris, Stevenson's backup is just a question mark. Yeah, like no one. It could be J.J. Taylor. It could be Pierre Strong. It could be Harris. We'll have to wait and see which one stays on the practice squad and which one is playing tomorrow night, because they are all minimum salary. One of them, I assume, has to be the backup. I imagine Stevenson's only going to play a max of like 90% of the snaps. Not a lot of running backs play every snap. And so one of them down there has to get a couple touches.
Oh boy, that's one risky game. I mean, there's so many potential flex options, and it looks like they all come from the Patriots down here in the 2 to 4 range. honestly, unless John Brown somehow miraculously gets off the practice squad and gets called up in time and maybe catches a deep pass. But
Yeah, I
like that's
completely
it.
agree. Completely agree with you.
But speaking of Buffalo, the man, the myth, the legend, Gabe Davis, whether it's 30 points in a game, whether it's him busting for 5 receptions and 25 yards, this man seems to have done it all this season. And you have to pick your spots in DFS because not like fantasy where you can just ride out the bad games potentially. If you take a dud from Gabe Davis in the showdown slate, you're done too at the 8K price range. Or he could put up 25 with a long touchdown catch and win you the slate. So, Parker, what are you doing with Gabe Davis Thursday night? Because he has been the most difficult fantasy player to analyze throughout this whole season. And I know fantasy Twitter, they were dedicating weeks upon weeks to just fighting about if this guy was good or not. Like, it was nuts. The offseason was crazy.
You said it best. Boomer bust, Gabe Davis, and therefore I love him. I'm going to have an insane amount of Gabe Davis tomorrow. Honestly, an insane amount at the captain spot. I think it's a great way to be able to get Allen and Stevenson and play around in the middle range. I think the snaps are there. The kid barely leaves the field. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
One
gonna
day.
come. It comes in. It's almost like he has 3 bad games in a row and then he just goes off. And so I am going to be on him for that alone. If my captain scores 8 points, it happens, and I'm okay with that. But if Gabe Davis has his classic 60-yard touchdown that we've been waiting for a couple weeks, then I will be all about it. So I love me some Gabe Davis tomorrow.
Yeah. His last big game came week 10 against Minnesota in the instant classic. He had 6 for 93 and a touchdown, but you have to go back all the way to week 5 where he had 3 receptions for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that was against my team. I watched that.
Yeah,
It hurt.
Sorry about that.
It was like in the first quarter too.
Dude's insane. He has 33 receptions for 650 yards. Like,
yeah, the upside is there, man. It is definitely there. And like I said, the snaps just the amount of snaps he plays just makes me want to just play him in every lineup.
it's so hard to not. It's like, and like his per average catches, like if he gets the ball, if he gets 7 targets, they're all going to be valuable because they're going to be probably at least 15 to 20 yards downfield.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's tough. I'm going to have him in a good bit of my lineups. I don't know how many yet, but I'm going to be more on the flex play side, and I'm probably going to try to be a little sneaky with my captain. I always do that to myself. I feel like that's one of my faults playing DFS. I try to get too, unpredictable at the captain slot. Like, I'm not going to signal anyone out here, but like, just for example, like in this game, I'd use a Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry type in the captain spot and just be able to pay up everywhere else. I don't think I'm going to do that, but I kind of outsmart myself, and I'll just say that outright on the pod right here. So I don't know if you do that at all, but I certainly do.
It's definitely a way to go about it in GPPs, but I usually try to stick to pass catchers that are going to play a lot of snaps and that have insane upside. If not, I usually try to go to quarterbacks, especially ones that run. I really don't play a lot of running backs in the captain spot.
Interesting. But yeah, that's what made Nelson Aguilar. I have to say that I was touting him all week to my buddies. It came Thursday. I didn't play him. Huge mistake.
Well, Ryan, he scares me because the only reason he had a big game is because Jacoby Myers got hurt. And when Jacoby Myers got hurt, Aguilar took over the slot role. And just the fact that they were constantly down, the game turned into a shootout. Mac had the most yards probably ever in his career. And I think that was the absolute ceiling from Nelson Aguilar. So in a game like this with a total of 43, with Jacoby Myers probably getting his role back, I don't think I'll play too much Aguilar at all. I think if Jacoby were to miss, I love the price tag at 4,800, but with Jacoby playing, I don't know. It scares me like that. I mean, he's probably $1,500 too expensive because of last week. And so he scares me down there.
Yeah, but speaking of Jacoby Myers, he's actually next up in our player pool. So we're going right along on Q. And obviously he's been by far the best New England wide receiver this season. I know a bunch of advanced metrics are touted. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but yards per route run, all that's cool stuff. He only had 4 targets for 62 yards last game, but obviously he was hurt in the middle of it. And like I said, he's been by far the best New England receiver, and he's coming at a discount. In the past couple of showdown slates, he's been above 8K. I forget how in the last 5 games he's been above 8K. He's clocking it at 7.2 in the flex spot right now. If he plays, are you in or are you out?
If he plays, I'm in. I think it's a great way to get a couple Patriots in your lineup. You could probably go, let's just say, for instance, Gabe Davis captain, Josh Allen, and then you could just go Ramondre and Myers and just not even take Mac Jones, assuming Myers is going to get his classic 8-yard catches, 4, 5, 6 of them. Therefore, just making your lineup not 5 Bills, 1 Patriot. You get a couple Patriots in there. So I think Myers is a good play at $7,200. He's clearly Mac Jones' favorite weapon. He's clearly probably the most talented receiver on the team. And so I like him at that price tag.
I mean, he just racks up receptions. That's all he does. I mean, he has 47, and then you look at the past games, 6 targets, whopping 13 against the Jets. Like, he's done that twice this year, also against your Steelers. I'm sorry. It feels like I'm picking on you. I'm not trying to, man, but looks like wide receivers kind of have their career days against you. But he also had 7 for 111 and a touchdown against Detroit. So, like, he's racked up double digits in every game except his last 3. So that's why we're getting a nice discount on him. And I mean, I'm in. Of course, I think they're going to have to play from behind. I think that's obvious. We all think Buffalo's the superior team here, but it's a division matchup. You never know. They could come out and shock you, but I'm in on Jacoby Myers. He might not see a lot after Tre'Davious White, which should make me more out on Nelson Aguilar and even Devontae Parker than I already am. But
yeah, if he's in the slot, he shouldn't see him at all, which is perfect, right?
It's exactly what you want. You want him away from Tre'Davious White, and on those, I believe they're both on backup safeties. I don't know if Jordan Poyer has returned yet. I might be mistaken. He might have. I know Micah Hyde's out for the season, but yeah, we move on. So let's get into Devin Singletary here. And this is where the showdown slate gets really interesting. I feel like those guys at top, I guess I could exclude Mac Jones. Sorry, Mac, are studs in their own right, and they will have the big games. But Devin Singletary is another boomer bust play. So I'm assuming you're in on him.
It's tough. So, Ryan, I'm calling this the dead range from Devin Singletary at 7,000 down to probably the kickers. I think a lot of them are going to be super low owned. A lot of them could probably put up 4 points, and I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. So, except Devin Singletary, I'll say. But this range is tough, and everyone's going to want to go to the top. Therefore, you have to go to the bottom, and therefore, this is that dead range. And so, I'll just say of these 3 Bills right here, Singletary, McKenzie, and Knox, I like Singletary the most. He's clearly the number 1 running back here ever since the Moss trade where they got Hines, seemingly for no reason whatsoever, because he hasn't played. Singletary's playing like 75% of the snaps every single game. And so if you're guaranteed probably 14, 15 carries and a couple catches at $7,000, he is a good play. It is hard to play him because the upside is not there so much. If Allen's throwing the ball, odds are it's not too Singletary, especially if if it's a touchdown. And so that kind of sucks. I think he's a really good cash game play or a small single entry play more than a tournament play.
Yeah, I agree with you. He doesn't have that slate breaking upside. I mean, we've seen him score a couple of times this season, and he's had some good games against Cleveland. He carried the rock 18 times, got in the end zone. Like, that feels like the ceiling for him. I know he scored twice with 9 receptions, so he didn't score twice. He scored once. He just had the big reception game. That's my bad. But yeah, speaking of the dead zone, like, you're gonna have to pick someone from the dead zone because it usually always works out. Like, this past year, I don't know if you were big on like the fantasy Twitter sphere. I know this is the second time I'm bringing that up, but you know who was the headliner of the RB dead zone in fantasy?
Who's that?
It was Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
No one wanted to pick from that area. And obviously, everyone that didn't is getting burned. Miles Sanders is in there too. He's having a great season. So the dead zone is not always a bad thing. Although you could end up with like Antonio Gibson and then your season's over. But that's besides the point. Yeah, I'm in on Devin Singletary. New England's good against the run, but like we've said, might they get the game script? Looks like they will. And if you get the touch the ball 16 to 18 times like Singletary usually does, I think the floor is there.
Yeah, it's hard for him not to score 10 points, right? Which is enough in small leagues to win some money.
They'll get you there in cash, probably, hopefully. But we move on, and oh boy, where to start with this next guy? He torched my lineups on Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but Isaiah McKenzie, who had 6 for 96 and a touchdown, 22.3 fantasy points, absolutely obliterated all my Thanksgiving lineups where I was like, Isaiah Hodgins is the must-own small ball play, and I got burned really bad. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, he was not good on Thanksgiving. I was definitely yelling at the TV when I had Josh Allen stacked with Diggs, stacked with Gabe Davis, stacked with Dawson Knox. I was not happy when he was just consistently throwing to Isaiah McKenzie for probably the first time this season. So I was not happy, and therefore I don't think I'm going to have too much of him. I think he's way too expensive. He had one good game. If that kid plays 20% of the snaps tomorrow night, I will not be surprised whatsoever. And so I'm not playing. He's not going to do it twice in a row, I hope.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, he had one target the game before that, man. Like, he's definitely. I could just say this. I don't know this for a fact, but I could just say it that he has the biggest price increase on this slate. I feel like I can confidently say that he's up 2,200 from 4.6 to 6.8.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah, I'm not playing that. I'm not touching that, Ryan.
Yeah, but then it feels like I could get burned all over again. And I really don't like that, but I think you have to be out. I agree. It's just so hard because honestly, those targets could easily go to Diggs. Knox wasn't heavily targeted in the Thanksgiving game. He could eat into that like he was the past week. I believe he had 7 targets that past week. And obviously, Gabe Davis is always a threat. And if they go up big, they're not going to be looking McKenzie's way. Although we could be wrong, and he could get 6 targets and somehow hit value.
Right, or he'll get an end around at the 10-yard line and run it in for a touchdown.
You know how I love those end arounds. He's not getting one of those. I can't. I called Laviska Shenault. I am calling against Isaiah McKenzie's end around.
Good, man. Because like we said, I like Singletary above him, and I like Dawson Knox below him. So I am interested to see what the ownership will be, if people will also have the same mindset, like, oh, he won't do it 2 games in a row, or if people look at last week and think, oh my gosh, Isaiah McKenzie's the new guy, the new number 2 in Buffalo. And so ownership will play a big factor into whether or not I'll have a little bit of them or none of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. But speaking of Dawson Knox, he's up next, and he only had 2 receptions for 2 targets, 2 receptions for 17 yards for 3.7 fantasy points. And most of the slate took a big L on him. He was the chalk on Thursday. So maybe people are going to have a little sour taste in their mouth, like we do opposite Isaiah McKenzie for not having him. You never know. But
yeah, I agree with that. I think people are going to have that sour taste, but I like him. I think it's a good price tag for Dawson Knox. He's playing, consistently about 80% of the snaps, 80 to 85% of the snaps. So I think he's a good play at 6,200. I think he's another great stack with Josh Allen, and I won't have him at captain or anything, but I think a flex play is a good spot, and he's probably due for a classic Dawson Knox first touchdown. I mean, I think it happened 5 times last year.
Okay, so here's the thing. I was going to get into it. So on my other pod that I was recording before this, we're doing like a best bets pool where we just list out bets. You can do same game parlays or bets. And I think I told you about my buddy who is an absolute degenerate for tight end touchdowns.
Yep.
He hasn't been doing that this year. So this week, he put Dawson Knox first touchdown. That would knock me into the punishment by a long shot. So it's happening. It's happening. I'm convinced.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. That's the only reason I'm convinced. Nothing else, but he just knows tight end touchdowns.
I
It's
think he's like
ridiculous.
13 or 14 to 1 too. I mean, you're getting solid value.
And he's going to be out there in the red zone. So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm in. And even if he has a game like he did against Minnesota, where I know was a shootout, but he still had 4 catches and 57 yards, he'll probably get you there with about 10 points.
Yeah, I agree. I like Knox a lot tomorrow night.
Yep. So I guess that ends like the higher tier, the higher middle tier, we could call that. Because next we drop down to Devontae Parker at 5'6", and me and Devontae Parker have had a long history. He was one of my favorite prospects coming out in the draft. The second I, got off the bandwagon because he had those injuries and he wasn't producing, he had his like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 season.
Yeah, he's hard to call, man. It's talk about boom or bust. It seems like that's Devontae Parker. And so I saw he's averaging 20 yards a catch this year,
Yeah.
which is like has to be top 5 in the NFL. And so this price tag's pretty nice. If there's no Myers, it's almost a must play. He's a perfect stack if you're playing Mac Jones to get extremely different because when the guy catches a ball, he gets 20 yards. And so I think that's a great GPP stack right there is Mac Jones with a little Devontae Parker. In most of the leagues I'll be playing without Mac Jones, I don't think I'll get too much to him. I think I'll just hope that he doesn't have 3 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown. I hope it's just 3 catches for I don't know because he gets 20 yards to catch. Never mind. I'll just hope that he doesn't catch a ball.
There you go. Like I'm looking at his game log, and it is puzzling, man. He had 5 receptions for 156 yards against Baltimore. I don't think he got that in his next like 6 games combined.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, he should be the one that gets Tre'Davious White. So in a game where I think New England's going to really try to just control time of possession and make it boring, I doubt they're throwing it to the outside against Tre'Davious White. So Parker is definitely a GPP or fade for me.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Bill Belichick do crazier though. Who knows?
True.
I mean, he was a full participant, so like he's off the injured report, and I don't know, man. Devontae Parker's always been tough for me. Like I just explained my whole backstory with him. It's just tough to evaluate for me, but you can't let personal bias get in the hold of these things. You were saying that right before the show to Derek, so have to re-bring that one up. But yeah, it's just tough. Like I don't think he has that ceiling game in him, so you're gonna have to hope for a touchdown or 60 yards and 3 catches, and like against Tre'Davious White, you can't do that. It just feels unlikely.
Yeah.
I like Hunter Henry or Nelson Aguilar down there even more because
I completely agree with you, man. Are you going to have any Bills defense or if we're just looking at this range?
it's so tough because like they only have 1 defensive touchdown on the season, and like they put up decent games. Like they had there are a couple of 8s, a couple of 5s. It's tough with the salary because Hunter Henry looked like such a safety valve for Mac Jones last week. And I know he's going to be significantly more popular in the Bills defense. So maybe you could
Yeah,
get them
I
without
don't.
Von Miller.
Yeah, I don't know. 5,200. I don't think I've ever paid 5,200 for a defense. I doubt I start tomorrow night. Like I'd just rather you save $1,000 and play a kicker. Like you play a defense at this price. Go ahead and play both running backs and just hope this game is horrible.
I think I have paid 5K for a defense. You had me thinking about that one. I think it was San Fran. What was it, 1 or 2 weeks ago in Mexico City against the Cardinals? I was like, Colt McCoy is going out there and he's getting crushed. And obviously that didn't quite happen, but the Niner defense did enough. So you have to be in a really good spot to play a defense like this. Like not
Yeah,
a punt.
I agree. And the Patriots don't turn the ball over very much. So,
And if they do, Bailey Zappi's going to come in and absolutely ruin it. So it's one of those things. But I was touting Nelson Aguilar before the show. We've arrived at him at 4.8. He had a nice big game last week with Jacoby Myers out, like you said. And he's been kind of hard to evaluate too because he had 6 of his 23 catches on the season last week. He's only had another game above 6, and that was, oh my gosh, I keep picking on the Steelers, man. He had 6 for 110 and a touchdown against Pittsburgh.
I know, Ryan. I watched all the games. I'm used to it by
sorry.
now.
I keep scrolling down everyone's big game in the game log, and it always seems to be Pittsburgh, dude.
Yep.
I apologize. It's tough. But yeah, he's been wildly inconsistent. Are you going to be in at all? With Jacoby Myers?
I don't think so, man. I think it's another huge price jump. I think I just want to fade. If, again, I hate to keep saying it, but if Jacoby Myers doesn't play, yes, I love him. He immediately goes into the slot role. He's going to play pretty much every snap. And so I love him at this price tag. If there's no Myers, I think Myers is playing, therefore not for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy to look at Nelson Aguilar's salary fluctuation over the season. He got all the way in a showdown slates up to 6'6" after his game against your Steelers, and he's gone all the way down to 800. So basically stone him in for Aguilar. Now he's back up to 4.8. He's riding the roller coaster.
Yeah, sell high, buy low, Ryan. Come on.
Oh gosh, you know me in the stock market way too well. But next up, we have Hunter Henry, who, like I said, seemed like a safety valve. 5 targets. It felt like more because he had that touchdown called back. He had 15.3 points. I believe that was his best game of the season, if I'm not wrong. I am wrong. He had 4 for 61 and a touchdown against Cleveland. Just slightly better. So it was close.
Yeah, he absolutely got screwed on that touchdown, by the way. I was flabbergasted when they took that back. I don't forget it because I didn't even have him in most lineups. So I was happy, but that was weird that they didn't give that to him. $4,600. Hunter Henry. He's playing about 60% of the snaps. It's weird. This team loves a good 2 tight end set.
They paid so much money.
if they're gonna run the ball, which I think they're gonna do a lot tomorrow night, there's gonna be two tight ends out there consistently. So I think I like the cheaper one at $1,400, Jonnu Smith. Not very often do you get a guy with 20 catches at $1,400 who I think is probably going to play 50% of the snaps tomorrow night. And so I think I'll save the ownership by a lot, and I'll save the $3,200 and go to Jonnu over Henry. But I completely understand if you're going to play Henry, you have to play a couple Patriots. I know it's not fun. And so I don't hate it, but I think I like the sneaky upside of the other tight end.
Yeah, I mean, it does a lot when you combine someone like Tyquan Thornton and Jonnu Smith down there. You could get every major Bills player in along with Ramondre. I'm just testing. I'm playing with some things here alive, just, to get a feel for it. But yeah, I mean, Jonnu Smith is the ultimate what if it feels like at tight end. Like, it feels like he should be getting so many more targets than he is.
Yeah, he hasn't scored this season, which is just scary to even think of because he is due.
They priced him all the way up to 3.2K last game against Minnesota, and he delivered a donut.
Yeah, because the game before he had 4 catches. I mean, he's out there. He's running routes. He's a veteran tight end. So I think this is a great buy low spot on Jonnu. Just a couple, Patriots run it 4 times in a row and then run the old play action to him. And at $1,400, you only need about 3 catches to get there.
It feels like a tall ask with Mac Jones and Bill Belichick, though. It really does. But I'm in on that as well. I like that too. It allows you to be so much more flexible with your lineups. Like if you do the big 3 with Diggs at captain and Jonnu Smith, you have 4.3 per player. So you might have to dip down in the further range again, but then you can go up high with someone like Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
There's room for that. So, and Jacoby Myers, if you don't want to play someone near the stone man. So I'm a big fan of that. But you know what I'm also a big fan of? I'm a big fan of kickers, man. I don't know if you notice this, but they always, and I mean always, seem to sneak their way into the optimal lineup, whether it's Brett Maher. What was it? Was this past week where he had 21, or was it the week before or something like that? I think it was the week before. but like he had 21. There's been some crazy kicker games recently, and Tyler Bass is averaging 10.3 points a game, and there's no reason to think he can't hit that again. He's hit that in 4 of his last 5 games, and his season high is 23. He made 6 field goals against Cleveland. I don't think we're going to see that, but
Yeah, wow. That is unbelievable.
that'll
But
break his slate.
I don't hate it, man. I mean, a couple weeks ago, Monday night, I took down a tournament with old Joey Sly,
Oh,
scoring 20
wow.
for me. And so I definitely don't hate it. I think you're an absolute moron if you play him in the captain spot. Yeah. But they're a good flex play. You're, like you said, you're banking on the 10 points. And if Tyler Bass is scoring 10 a game, I mean, it's hard not to play because the Bills move the ball constantly. And
Mm-hmm.
so I definitely don't hate the kickers, especially with the game with the total of 43. If I think the total opened at like 50. If the totals, if it stayed at 50, yeah, sure, I'll fade a kicker here and there. But I do think it's a good price range. It's a good way to just get different. I think the more we talk about it, the more I think more people are just going to go big three as cheap as they can go. So I think everyone in this $7,000 to $4,000 range is going to be extremely low owned.
Mm-hmm. I like Nick Folk on the other side as well. He's almost averaging 10 points a game, too. I mean, he did have the bummer against the Jets where he missed 2, but before that, he had 17 points and 21 points. Like, it's boomer bust with Nick Folk. Like, Tyler Bass seems consistent. So, Nick Folk's definitely going to come in as lower ownership. I don't think there's any win tomorrow. I got to check that real
I
quick.
was
But what
just
do
going
you
to
think?
ask you how's the wind looking tomorrow, because I didn't think it was going to be anything special. I thought it was just going to be 35 and cold.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks like the wind is going to be heavy right before the game. And right when we get to about game time, it's looking to be like 6 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah,
6 by
that's fine.
halftime.
Yeah.
But it's windy in the morning. So, like, maybe people get scared off if they don't look too far in the afternoon because in the morning it's supposed to get up to like 20 miles an hour close to the afternoon.
Yeah, I think the only way to get off the kickers is Patriots defense. I don't think that's a bad play at all. Josh Allen loves turning the ball over. I mean, the
Recently, yeah.
dude's got like 11, 12 picks this year and 2 or 3
Oh,
fumbles. So Pat's defense at 3,200. I mean, you can save $1,000 off a kicker right there.
mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just so tough to go to the Patriots. Yeah, I mean, they've been one of the best plays in fantasy football all season. 4 defensive touchdowns, 12 picks, like, and they get it done at home. In their 5 games at home, they average about 15 DraftKings points. So,
That's pretty damn good. I
I mean,
think I think you're right. I mean, below Henry, dude, you have to go a kicker, you have to go Pat's D, or you have to go one of these cheap Patriots. I don't think there's anyone else worth playing. I'm not going to touch James Cook or Naheem Hines. I don't know about
I
you.
was so in on the James Cook show before that. He scored me 5 points on Thursday and let me down, and I can't go back to him. He doesn't play enough. He's not going to get a game script
No,
chance. But
unless Singletary fumbles the first drive of the game, and the Bills do a old okay, you're done. Put in James. I don't think there's there's any way. I mean, $3,600. That's a lot of money.
mm-hmm. I mean, if you look at the past home games for the Patriots, obviously they had that special teams touchdown in Week 11 against the Jets to win. They had a defensive touchdown against Indy the week before that. 17 and 26 points. The ceiling's there. They shut out Detroit, who looked like a potent offense, and they had Buffalo on the ropes for a little bit there. 22 points. Like, they just score points at home. I don't get it. It's
Yeah,
one of those weird things we have to look into, but
and they're cheap, man. They're really cheap. We'll have to check ownership before kickoff,
mm-hmm.
but that is a great cheap play right there. If you don't want to pay for old Jonnu Smith and pray for a pray for a catch.
Oh goodness, yeah. You'll be praying for Josh Allen's downfall then, which seems, I don't know, less likely,
That's true.
more likely after the UCL. Like, if this wasn't UCL injury Josh Allen, I feel like we'd be full fading the defense at this point.
Is the I got to ask you, is the only person down here that you would play besides Johnny Smith Thornton, or would you have any Kendrick Bourne?
Oh, gosh. Kendrick Bourne's one of those guys, when he gets on the field, he produces, it feels like. But, you know, he had, 3 receptions for 36 yards last game. He doesn't have a touchdown yet. I mean, I don't think it's a punt.
Yeah, it seems like this. It seems like the ceiling without Jacoby Myers, right? And so if Jacoby's playing, Kendrick Bourne and Thornton will probably both play 20% of the snaps. I think New England clearly wants to get the ball in this rookie's hand, Thornton, and so at he's $400, so he's $1,800 cheaper than Bourne.
Mhm.
I think I'd much rather play him if Jacoby plays. If Jacoby doesn't play, Bourne is a hell of a punt.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's gonna get some looks with Jacoby Myers out. We have a strong conviction, you do, and I agree with you that Jacoby Myers is gonna play tomorrow.
Yeah, everything's saying that he's going to play. This is almost a must-win game for them. It's at home. I can't imagine Jacoby's not going to try and suit up.
And we've seen it with the ceiling with Tyquan Thornton before. We haven't seen it with Kendrick Bourne yet. He had that nice touchdown in Week 6 against Cleveland, and he scored 21.3 points at 1.4K, and that broke the slate. So he hasn't done anything in recent weeks, but there's always that sliver of a chance that he get things going. He'd get a deep target maybe. He didn't have one on Thursday against Minnesota, but he's had at least 2 targets in the previous games, and I have to assume at least a couple of those are deep targets that Mac Jones maybe just missed or something happened.
Yeah, I think he's a good play down here. Only other one that I would think of is, are you going to have any Khalil Shakir?
He burned me on Thanksgiving. No thanks. I know we don't carry beef over, but man,
that seemed like you and him have some major beef, man.
We have some major beef because, like, I forget how many times I've played him and he's burning me. I gotta look around. I played him. He had his best game against Pittsburgh too, man. I am so sorry.
Oh yeah, he went off against Pittsburgh.
I think I played him like the week after that or the week before that. At the minute, like 2 for 23. I know I played him one of these donut weeks. I played him last week in the showdown slate, and I had everybody else in that lineup. I had Amon-Ra, I had Jamal, I had Stephon Diggs, I had Josh Allen, and then Khalil Shakir's just down there sitting with a donut. I was like, this is great.
And he's playing. It's not like he's not out there. I mean, he's playing like 35% of the snaps. So if he gets, the one catch, 30 yards and a touchdown, it's there. No one's going to have him. Everyone's going to want Thornton instead. But if you got a punt, he's sneaky.
Very sneaky. I'm just looking down here. I just remembered Reggie Gillum scoring that one touchdown. I mean,
no, not Reggie Gillum.
He's not a punt. He's not a punt. I'm just saying, I just remember him scoring that one touchdown. It would be way too bold of anyone to play him down here.
Yeah, I remember FanDuel posting some ticket. Some guy put like $20 on Gillum to score the first touchdown. It was like 80-1.
People are crazy, man. But yeah. All right. If you had to choose one backup running back from the Patriots, I know you say who's going to wait on the practice squad, but do any of these guys interest you in tournaments? Like, if you had to pick one, who would be your preferred backup?
If I had to pick one, I think I'd go Pierre Strong. I'd go with one of the rookies instead of JJ Taylor. Man, it's tough. Like we said, Stevenson can't play every snap. I mean,
did you see the news on RotoWire? Strong is a candidate to see extra work Thursday against the Bills.
Oh, there we go.
So he could find himself as Ramondre Stevenson's backup.
There we go. I mean, $200. Yeah, $200. If he seems more likely to touch the ball than Thornton or Shakir, so there are a lot of punts down here, man.
There's a ton of punts, which, like you said, allows everyone to go big at the top. You could fit those big 3 guys in. So I don't know if you have like a best play, but like I think I'm going to agree with you, and I'm just going to let you say it because I think I'm on board with you here. Because I think you mentioned him earlier in the episode as your favorite play.
Favorite play of the entire slate?
Yeah.
I got to go Stevenson.
I wasn't thinking Stevenson. I was more so thinking Gabe Davis with the ownership.
Oh, yeah. I love Gabe Davis so much.
He's not gonna, everyone's going to ignore him because you cannot fit him in unless you super like mega punt down to Tyquan Thornton or you miss one of these top guys.
Yeah, so and the projections hate him. He's not projected out to be that valuable of a play, but
Never is.
The upside is there for Gabe Davis. You're right. I love me some Gabe.
Yep.
Do you have any bets for me tomorrow night?
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, besides tailing my friend and making money off my demise with Dawson Knox first touchdown, I think I'm going to go with, gosh, this is tough, but I saw the line for Ramondre Stevenson's receptions at 5 plus, and an anytime touchdown, it's at like plus 200. I think he gets in. Could be a little bit of risk, but I think that 5 plus receptions it feels locked in at this point. I don't know about you. I think it might be like 160. I put it in a same game parlay with that. But yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I'm gonna bet the under on Isaiah McKenzie's receiving yards.
There you go.
I'm willing it into existence. I don't
There
know
you
about
go.
you. That's more of a will. Ramondre Stevenson feels more like a lock. What about you?
So
What do
I
you got?
like the Stevenson. I'm going to go the opposite side for Stevenson and just assume that the Patriots game plan is going to be run down their throat. And so I like Stevenson 80 plus rushing yards. It's plus 220 on FanDuel. I think that's kind of good value. It seems like every time Harris misses, he gets 100 plus yards. So I'll take the 80 there. 100 actually is plus 450. So decent little value there. And then I'm going Gabe Davis, man. Gabe Davis, 80 plus receiving yards, plus 310, 90 plus receiving yards, plus 470, and anytime touchdown, plus 220. Love Gabe Davis.
I love that. I also want to add one more here. I was just looking at the odds just to make sure. Josh Allen over 0.5 receptions minus 145.
What? Over receptions?
Over interceptions, my bad.
Okay.
I'm
I was like, ooh, a
misspeaking
little
here.
Philly special to Josh
Little
Allen.
Philly special at minus 145. Yeah.
Yeah, what do they know?
Well, they know something we don't. It's the Riddler meme all over again. He knows.
Yeah, I like the interceptions, man. I mean,
Yeah.
he's thrown one a game at this point.
Yeah. Gosh, if he had a reception, and if he's a reception tomorrow, we're just gonna come back and clip this, and I'm gonna ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, first touchdown is a Philly special to Josh Allen tomorrow night. Lock it in.
Oh my goodness. I gotta look. Besides Dawson Knox at 16-1, do you have any long shots that you like?
For first touchdown?
Yeah.
It's hard to take anyone that's not a Bill because they just are so much better. And so I think Knox was honestly the highest I was looking at. I think I'd look at what is Shakir? What is he at 80-1?
Shakir is 35-1.
Nope. That's not high enough.
Mm-mm.
No, I am good on that, man. I do have a little parlay for you though.
Oh, hit me with the parlay.
This one's called Throw It to Anyone But Diggs. And it is Josh Allen, 250 plus pass yards. Gabe Davis, 80 plus receiving yards. Gabe Davis touchdown. Dawson Knox, 50 plus receiving yards. And it is 40-1 on FanDuel. Anyone but Diggs.
I like that you're saying anyone but Diggs and not betting the under on Diggs because that could very well burn you.
Yeah, because Allen still does need 250. He can throw it to Diggs.
You can, but not all the time.
Yeah.
You need to sprinkle it to your guys. But yeah, I think this was a fun show. I had a great time talking ball with you as always. And hopefully we hit tomorrow for something good. And hopefully one of these punt plays pays off, whether it's Jonnu, whether it's Tyquan Thornton. Somebody's going to get us there, man.
I hope so, man. I really do. And then we have a hell of a UFC card this Saturday.
Oh, my goodness. How do they book a fight night this good?
I don't know. I'm thinking about flying down to Orlando just to try and see it.
Heck yeah. I think this fight night might be better than the upcoming main card with the belt on it. Honestly.
No, I completely agree with you, man.
Wonder Boy and Kevin Holland in the main event. And, I'm going to be so sad this weekend because my boy is a massive underdog, Tai Tuivasa.
He's too big of an underdog, Ryan.
It's going to pain. I mean, I remember what I did last time. It was Molly McCann, and I'm like, don't do it. And then Aaron Blanchfield went out there and absolutely annihilated her. So, I'm not putting whole units on these people. I'm doing a little sprinkle, maybe tie by knockout, a little sprinkle.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
And hey, man, we'll have the UFC show. We're gonna do that tomorrow. So
Yeah,
we got a big week ahead.
I'm hyped up. And then we have the Sunday one coming up as well, where we got a nice and packed slate to go over, which there's a lot of good games this weekend. I was just doing a pick show, and you have Miami and San Fran. You have an AFC Championship game rematch. And then you have the Jets and the Vikings. That's going to be a good one. And of course, in prime time, we get Colts Cowboys. Good stuff. Can't believe that one. But I think that does it for us here. You have any last thoughts on this slate or even the UFC card coming up? Because I'm so excited for that.
Last thought is throw it to Gabe Davis.
Throw it to Gabe. Anyone but Stephon Diggs.
Anyone but Diggs.
Mm-hmm. I'll add on Jonnu Smith. He's catching a touchdown. I'm gonna will it.
Oh, there we go.
But that does it for us here on Daily Fantasy Studs Podcast, or DFS for short. You could catch us on all major platforms, including YouTube, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.